Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4 and 5 deals with the very serious vision of judgment from the past and about the future. Lord willing, this is edifying and straight to the point. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim Rakak Wadash, Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahushai. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. And a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect in the same Spirit, teaching His word and believing in His word, Lord willing, as a whole, that they continue in sound doctrine and in the same Spirit. Shalom to the Akwat that are believers of this faith and this truth. Lord willing, that you continue to pursue your lot, which is being a loving, a silent, and virtuous wife. And Lord willing, Yahweh Shemashah have mercy on the other brothers and sisters that's not in the faith. Again, Ezekiel 9, chapter 4 to 6 is a twofold scriptures that deals with the past and the future. Let's just go to the point of showing that this is dealing with the past. So when you see at the top of Ezekiel, the 9th chapter, we in the blue letter, the vision of slaughter. So this is Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4. It says, And Yahweh said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said in my hearing, Go ye after him through the city and smite, let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man among whom is the mark, which is in the Hebrew, Thawah. And begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. Let's just go into this word, mark, M-A-R-K. H8420. It's in Paleo Hebrew, it's Thawah. Thawah. Right? And it means dark mark, mark as a sign of exemption from judgment. Right? A signature. Right? Now, in the future reference, we could look at this lining up with Revelation, the 14th chapter, verse 1. The name of the Father and the Son and the forehead. Right? But let's just prove that this is dealing with the past. Now, we've seen at the top, it says the vision of slaughter. All right? So now, this vision was given to Ezekiel while he was in the Babylonian captivity. He was the first captive around 593 BC, but it directly related to what was about to happen in Jerusalem during Jeremiah's ministry. Jeremiah was still in the land. So when you read the book of Jeremiah, he's in the land. Now, later on, when you start going into the chapters, you understand Jehoiachin is, one of the kings that actually get taken, and Nebuchadnezzar taken back to Babylon, and, a good handful of some of the southern kingdom as captives. Ezekiel was a part of that, the first that were captive. Jeremiah had been warning Judah of the coming Babylonian destruction. Now, I'm going to quote these chapters because, you will have to read even for yourself. That's the whole point when you watch these lessons. Sometimes we might bring out precepts we don't read. We might quote a chapter. If you don't understand your history, go read Jeremiah the 7th chapter, Jeremiah the 25th chapter, and Jeremiah the 39th chapter. So again, the word mark in the 4th verse, right? This is symbolizing protection for the remnant, what we just seen, a mark from exemption, judgment. Those who mourn for the sins of Judah, which we see that sigh and cry for the abominations that be done in the midst thereof, spiritually it matched Jeremiah's message that Yahweh will preserve a small remnant. Let's see, and let's go to Jeremiah, the 24th chapter, and let's read 4 to 7. Let me just read verse 1, then I'll drop down at verse 4. It says, Yahweh showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs were set before the temple of Yahweh. After that, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah and the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and the princes of Judah, with the carpenters, the smiths from Jerusalem, and had brought them to Babylon. Right? So going down to starting at verse 4, again, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, now that proves that it was captives that went to Babylon first, before the siege. Thus saith Yahweh, the power of Israel, like these good figs, which we read in verse 3, so will I acknowledge them that are carried away captive of Judah, whom I have sent out of this place into the land of the Chaldeans for their good. For their good. Right? And we look at that because when Nebuchadnezzar come and destroyed Babylon, those that were already captive did not get afflicted from that. Right? So they were saved. Right? Mark of exemption from judgment. Verse 6. For I will set my eyes upon them for good, and I will bring them again to this land. So those that are captives first, they will come back to that land again. And I will build them and not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up. And I will give them a heart, a mind to know me, that I am Yahweh, and they shall be my people, and I will be their power, for they shall return unto me with their whole heart. Okay, so the command to slay without pity, when we go back to Ezekiel 9, let's do it. Ezekiel 9, verse 5 and 6. And to the others he said in my hearing, go ye after through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Those that became captive, did they get slayed? No. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark, the Thawah, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. Right? So this was fulfilled. This was the fulfillment in the Babylonians when they came in 586 BC, approximately, and destroyed Jerusalem and the temple. That's why I said, begin at my sanctuary. Right? This is when Babylon sieged it. Let's get more history. Right? Let's go to 2 Kings, the 25th chapter, and let's go to verse 8. Look what it says. Jerusalem burned and plundered. And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of Yahweh, the sanctuary, in the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard break down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Babylon, with the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away. Right? But the captain of the guard left the poor of the land to the vine dresser and husbandman. Right? We could keep on going to that, but let's go to Jeremiah, the 39th chapter. Let's let them just all line up. Soak it up. Jeremiah 39, when you look at the top, it deals and say Jerusalem captured. So you go to verse 6. We're going to read the 6 to 9. It says, the king of Babylon slew the sons of Zedekiah in Riblah, right? Because who was the king when Nebuchadnezzar overtook or besieged Jerusalem? Zedekiah. Before his eyes, also the king of Babylon slew the nobles of Judah. Moreover, he put Zedekiah's eyes out and bound him with chains to carry him to Babylon, right? He took this man's eyes out. He should have listened to Jeremiah. And the Chaldeans burned the king's house, Zedekiah, and the houses of the people with fire and break down the walls of Jerusalem. Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive unto Babylon the remnant of the people that remained in the city, and those that fell away, that fell to him, with the rest of the people that remained. Right? But I'll just read the next one because what we already read in Kings is the last one. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left of the poor of the people, which had nothing in the land of Judah, and gave them vineyards and fields at the same time. You see that? So before the fall, Jeremiah was preaching. Jeremiah warned the people to repent, but most refused, right? Which the same thing we doing now. This is why when you look at Ecclesiastes 1 and 9, history merely repeats itself. The same cycle. So that's why even when you look at the Thawa in Ezekiel 9, 4 to 6, that's going to be the same on this side, which the remnant is going to be saved, starting with, the 144,000, the 1/3, which is the, the great multitude in Revelation 7 and 9. And the rest are going to be destroyed. Smite, which is the 2/3. History merely is repeating itself, man. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 7th chapter. Let's get into it to make sure everything line up. Look at what it say at the top. Message at the temple gate. So going to verse 25, and we're going to read to 28. It says, since the day that your fathers came forth out of the land of Egypt, unto this day I have even sent unto you all my servants the prophets, daily rising up early and sending them. This is another reason why I'm going to do this Lowell in this camp, Yahweh Ratazah, on why the Lord always have the prophets and apostles say the same thing over and over again, right? It's good for repetition for the elect and for the 2/3 where they can make an excuse that they couldn't hear it, because the Lord sent unto us his servants the prophets daily, rising up early and sending them. Yet they hearken not unto me, nor incline their ear, but harden their neck. They did worse than their fathers, right? And if we was to compare us now, we're worse than our fathers in 2025. Therefore thou shalt speak all these words unto them, but they will not hearken to thee. Thou shalt also call unto them, but they will not answer thee. But thou shalt say unto them, this is a nation that obeyeth not the voice of Yahweh their power, nor receiveth correction. Truth is perished and is cut off from their mouth, right? The truth is perished and cut out from their mouth. The same with the 2/3. You don't want this to be you. So during the siege in 588 to 586 BC approximately, famine and pestilence and sword and plagued Jerusalem. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 14th chapter, in verse 12. At the top, what does it say? Drought and a prayer for mercy. Verse 12. Let's start at verse 11. Then said Yahweh unto me, pray not for this people, for their good. It's the same what we do for the 2/3. We're not praying for the good for the 2/3. When they fast, I will not hear their cry. And when they offer burnt offering and an oblation, I will not accept them. But I will consume them by the sword and by the famine and by the pestilence. Right? The Lord is already giving them the blueprint on what he's going to do. Right? So let's go to Jeremiah 21 and 9. It says, he that abideth in this city shall die by the sword, and by the famine, and by the pestilence. But he that goeth out and falleth to the Chaldeans that besiege you, he shall live, and his life shall be unto him for a prey. Come on, man. So, in the fight of destruction in 586 BC, Nebuchadnezzar's army slaughtered the inhabitants, burned the temple, and took the rest captives, which we already read. But let's get it again, right? So you can sink it in that Ezekiel 9:4-6 is speaking about the siege of Jerusalem by Babylon, right? The destruction, right? So again, Jerusalem captured. Jeremiah chapter 39, and we just going to read 8 and 9. And the Chaldeans burned the king's house and the houses of the people with fire, and break down the walls of Jerusalem. Then Nimazaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive into Babylon the remnant of the people that remained in the city, those that fell away, that fell to him, and the rest of the people that remained. Go again. Let's go back again so nobody can say they didn't hear it. 2 Kings chapter 25, we're going to read 9-11. And he burnt the house of Yahweh and the king's house and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire, and all the army of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard break down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Babylon with the remnant of the multitude, did Nimazaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away. So when we go back to Ezekiel 9, right, what it said at the top let you know that this did not happen yet, right? The vision of slaughter. Jeremiah was speaking about it. He was prophesying this was coming. Ezekiel had this was a vision he was speaking of, which is what was actually going to take place to Jerusalem. And when you go from 2 all the way to 9, it's all symbolic to Jerusalem, right? It's all symbolic leading up to them being destroyed, right? So when we look at Ezekiel 9:4-5, which was fulfilled historically in the time of Jeremiah at the destruction of Jerusalem in approximately 586 BC by the Babylonians, the men who sighed and cried, the righteous remnant, were spiritually marked and preserved, while the rest of the city was slaughtered without mercy, right? So if we was to look at it, in the spiritual sense for the elect, just going back to verse 4, that and Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh, that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Now, if we truly was to understand, Jerusalem is the people before the place. In the time of Jeremiah, it was the people that was in the place. You know, Jake is scattered 4 corners of the earth, which the 12 tribes are in mystery Babylon together, right? Let me just get that in I think it's Jeremiah. It might be Jeremiah 50 verse 33. And it reads, it says, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel, which is speaking about the northern kingdom, and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Well, the southern and northern kingdom was not in captivity together in ancient Babylon, right? They were in captivity together in modern day Babylon, right? Modern day Babylon, the children of Israel, the southern and northern kingdom, are in captivity together, right? Salaki. So when we look at the sighing and crying, it's the prophets that's going out to the highways and byways, bending people to the marriage, right? So let's look at this. Let's look at this. Psalms 94, verse 16. History merely repeats itself. In the book of Judges, right? When we look at the prophets, right? Who's going to rise up for me against the evildoers? It's the prophets, it's the servants, it's the apostles, right? So when we look at Psalms 94, verse 16, who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? First, we're speaking about the children of Israel. Let's go to Isaiah 1 and 3, which is a classic. Even though this goes into history, right? When we look at Salaki, Isaiah 1, rebellion of the Most High's people, right? Which this goes back into the history dealing with the southern kingdom. But when we look at all Israel, this falls for, right? The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. These two dumb animals know their owner. They know their master's crib, whereabouts, right? Or where where the sheepfold is. But Israel doeth not know. My people doeth not consider. They don't know who their power is. They forgot. They lost that, right? When we go to Romans, the 11th chapter, in verse 7, it says, I say then, have they stumbled? Salaki, that's verse 11. Verse 7, what then? Israel have not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election, which election going to selection, have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. Right? I just want to click this just to show you proof that election even goes into selection. Right? Because the elect were selected before the foundations of the heavens of the earth. Symbolic to the remnant. Even when you go to Isaiah 1 and 9, the Lord even said he left a remnant, or we would have been like Sodom and Gomorrah. Right? This even lines up with Eklage.
Strong's G 1589, Eklage.
Right? When you go to Eklage, it just says elect. The elect is the best of his kind or best of his class. So you got biblical uses, the act of picking out, choosing. Going to Strong's definition, right? Divine selection. I'm not divine. So this divine selection even goes with chosen, but that comes by the Heavenly Father, Ephesians 1. Predestined, right? So even if we was to look at this, even though this is even quoting the same time as Elijah, when you go to Ephesians 1 and 4, that they quoting right here, according as he have chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love. Right? Only the elect, symbolic to the remnant, that's that sighs and cry. But the Lord said he raised up prophets for us, right? We already read it when we were going into Jeremiah, I believe, where the Lord was raising up the prophets daily, and you didn't hear them, right? The prophets is the example of the remnant. The prophets are the example. The true prophets are the example of the elect. Let's go to this Jeremiah. I believe it's 32:33. Yes, this is Jeremiah 32:33. And they have turned unto me the back and not the face. Though I taught them rising up early and teaching them, yet they have not hearkened to receive instruction. Right? This was Jeremiah, but it was all by the power of Yahweh. Wait, how can we say so? Let's even go in the New Testament, even though it says in the Old, right? The Lord always sent seers, or which is prophets, which is called seers in the beginning of time. But let's go to this. Hebrews 1 and 1. The Most High, who at sundry times in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, right? The Lord is always speaking to us by the prophets. Luke 1, 1:70. As he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began, all the way leading to Yahweh Shai, all the way going past the Yahweh Shai to the time we at right now, the Lord was always speaking to us through his prophets. 2 Samuel 23:2. The spirit of Yahweh spake by me, and his word was in my tongue. Right? Let's actually go to see who's actually speaking. So verse 1, it says, now these be the last words of David, the son of Jesse, said, in the man who was raised up on high, the anointed of the Most High of Jacob, in the sweet psalmist of Israel, which is David, the spirit of Yahweh spake by me, and his word was in my tongue. Wait, so the spirit of the Lord spake by him. It was really Yahweh speaking through him. Wait, that should remind us of something. 2 Timothy chapter 1, and going straight to 20, it says, knowing this first, that no prophecy of the scripture is of any private interpretation. What Ezekiel had a vision of, what Jeremiah was prophesied that did not happen, this was not no private interpretation. For the prophecy came not in old time by the will of man, but holy men, set apart men of the Most High, spake as they were moved by the Ruach Kodesh. Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jonah, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Malachi, Micah, Haggai, Habakkuk, Nahum, the apostles, and then the other ones after, right? Even when you go to Acts, the 8th chapter, verse 26, Philip was moved through the Spirit to go teach the eunuch on what he was reading in Isaiah, the 53rd chapter. You know, the Spirit moved him. It was all the Lord. So if the Lord is always dealing with his prophets and history merely repeats itself, it's first the prophets and then it's you other men and women, just like what you see in Ezekiel 9:4. It's men that's not teaching and it's women that's teaching, that's sighing and crying. How do you cry? You're crying unto Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. The Lord hear the prayers of the righteous. I know those that's listening can get it. This is, I believe, I think this is the one that we want. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 12, for the eyes of Yahweh Shema Shai are over the righteous, and his ears are open unto their prayers. But the face of Yahweh Shema Shai is against them that do evil. So when we look at it in the past tense, those that got destroyed when the Babylonians came, right, though they were evil. But those that were actually removed and taken captive and was actually treated well, the captives, Jehoiakim, right, they were considered a remnant. They didn't get that destruction. They wasn't even in Jerusalem in the time of the destruction. So when we look at not the place where the Israelites is now, we will look in this modern time where Jacob scattered four corners of the earth, the elect as the people of that land, right, that holy land, right, that set apart land, right. The Lord is sifting us out. The Lord is observing the righteous and the wicked, and those that are righteous, the Lord is hearing their prayers, their cries, right, from the elect men that are a part of 144,000, the prophets, the apostles, the evangelists, the teachers, the pastors, and then even including the other men that don't teach, right, but really believe, in the women and the children, right. The Lord is hearing you. Even the Lord said that Abel's blood was crying unto him. The Lord hears the blood of the righteous. The Lord hears the prayers of the righteous, right? And if we even go to this last one, Revelations, the 7th chapter, verse 2 to 3. I'll start at 1. It said, after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, which is that destruction, right? You see that even in Jeremiah 51, 1 and 2, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads. Those servants is apostles, prophets, evangelists, the teachers of this word. Ephesians 4, chapter 11 to 13. And that's not just only them, right? That's the sheep, that's the flock. Ezekiel 34 and 31. But then you have the great multitude in verse 9, man, right? Even when you go to second Ezra's, the 2nd chapter, those that get crowned, those that get beamed up on the side, those are the ones that get sigh and cry, right? But Lord willing, this is edifying, straight to the point. Lord willing, you got understanding really on the history. Like, I don't know if anybody, knows the history, but Lord willing, you got edified on the history of this. So let's give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Al-Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. A mighty shalom to the hopeful elect in the same spirit and in sound doctrine. Lord willing, y'all can continue to endure in the same spirit. Shalom to the Aqua, the believers of this faith and this truth. Lord willing, that y'all all continue to pursue your lot, being a loving and silent and virtuous wife. And Lord willing, Yahweh Shem Shai have mercy on the other brothers and sisters that's not in faith. With that, shalom, shalom, ababa ball. All praises again to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Shalom.